am running for Nye County Sheriff. A little bit about my background to start with. I grew up in Las Vegas. My family was all involved in public service in one way or another. My father worked for the city of Las Vegas. My mother worked for the Clark County School District. My brother went into the Army. My other brother worked for the city of Las Vegas. My sister worked at University Medical Center. I started working in law enforcement in 1987 in Las Vegas. I started working at the Clark County Detention Center as a corrections officer. I was 22 years old, and I decided after about a year and a half of that, it was a little too slow paced for me. So I decided I would go to the Patrol Academy. So I went to the Patrol Academy in 1989. And I have been a cop ever since. I've been in law enforcement now for coming up on 35 years. I worked for 26 years for the Metro Police Department in Las Vegas. I worked in several different detective assignments. I was part of the end of my career in Metro. I was with the Auto Theft Task Force, Right Auto Theft Task Force for 12 years. I worked in narcotics. I worked problem solving unit. I worked the tourist crimes section, retail theft section. So when I retired in 2013 from Metro, we were living out here at the time. We moved out here in 2008. And after I retired, I decided after about 3 months that I was tired of doing honeydews all day. So I told my wife, quit giving me a honeydew list every day. I'm going back to work. And it worked, believe it or not. So I started working out here in 2014 as a deputy. I started doing detective work here. And I was a general assignment detective. Obviously, I can't work full-time because I'm collecting my retirement from Metro in Vegas. So I am paid right now, and I have been paid for about the last 5 years, part-time, 19 hours a week. Okay? I started out at base pay, I think $17.75 an hour they started me at. But that's okay. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because this is my passion. Law enforcement has been my passion for the last 34 plus years. And actually, well before that, I used to have people tell me when I was working at Lucky's grocery store, you should be a cop. Because of my attitude, my demeanor, my mindset. So, since working out here, I worked for about 3.5 years as a general assignment detective. And they asked me if I wanted to go to motor school. Motor school is 160 hours, 4 weeks, full-time, Metro taught, and you're on a motorcycle for that 160 hours. And trust me, that was the most physically demanding training that I have attended in my entire career. A lot of fun because you get to ride a Harley Davidson all day, but it was a lot of work because you're wrestling around that 900-pound Harley Davidson all day long. And ever since then, I've been working traffic enforcement after that. Now, you may not like that, and that's okay. I'm going to agree to disagree. However, traffic enforcement is a necessary evil. It's a necessary function of law enforcement. It's part of law enforcement. Okay? If we don't have people out there, deputies out there, enforcing the traffic laws, then people are going to drive however they want to drive. They're going to be passing on the right at 120 miles an hour. They're going to be running red lights. And unless we're out there as, number one, a visual deterrent and enforcing, then there's no deterrent. People will do whatever they choose to do, which is going to lead to accidents and is going to lead to deaths. From 2020 to 2021, Nye County alone had a 74% increase in fatal crashes. Now, a lot of those were on the highway 95 in between Vegas and Reno. as big as the Tonopah, Knight County. However, we have had a huge increase in fatal crashes in this valley alone. And I can tell you this, I'm tired of picking up people off the road with a sponge, because these are your family members, your loved ones. And unless we get out there and enforce the traffic laws and write citations and act as a visual deterrent to bad driving, it's not going to change, right? Some of the reasons why I chose to run for sheriff. Now, I have a long career, 34 plus years. I have a lot of experience working in Metro, a lot of training, a lot of knowledge. I've done just about all there is to do in law enforcement as far as any type of call that can take place in a law enforcement agency. I pretty much worked it and handled it and supervised it. I was a supervisor for a year and a half. I was a sergeant. I was a field training officer. But I never wanted to go any higher at that point, because I like being a cop. I have not in my career liked being an administrator. However, my career has come to the point, and my values has come to the point where something's got to change around here in Knight County. And nobody with the experience and the knowledge and the desire to stand up and make those difficult changes was standing up to make those changes. And so I decided that I was going to run for sheriff here, because you people, the citizens of Knight County, the citizens of Pahrump, Beatty, Tonopah, everything north of Tonopah, east of Tonopah, you are not receiving the law enforcement services that you deserve. You're not receiving the law enforcement services that you're paying for with your taxes. Okay? We're short-handed. Now, everybody around the country, law enforcement-wise, is short-handed. That's a reality. Okay? A lot of people don't want to be law enforcement anymore because of the societal change that has taken place over the last several years. However, the Knight County Sheriff's Department has gotten and developed a bad reputation. Okay? The Knight County area has gotten a reputation of being corrupt, as the Sheriff's Department has gotten a reputation of being corrupt. I can tell you, based on my 8 years working here, the deputies are hard-working individuals. They really are. They do a good job. They do the best they can with what they've got. But we need more training, okay? But the deputies are not corrupt. They're not criminals. They do things that people may not like sometimes. That's going to be the reality of being a cop, okay? Not everybody is going to agree with you. But it's a difficult job that needs to be done that not everybody wants to do, right? We have our deputies right now that are being nitpicked to death by their administration. The morale is so low because of the administration. And I read an email last week that came out on the Knight County Sheriff's Department email system that said, from an administrator, I don't believe that our morale is low. How can you not believe that? When was the last time you went and talked to any of your cops? Obviously been a long, long time. I'm talking years since you must have talked to your cops, because for years the morale has been bad. They're overworked because they're short-handed. They're overworked because of some of the procedures that our department has, some of the functions that we do that maybe is not necessarily a law enforcement function, okay? The problem with that is this is a small community. It's a small, quiet, peaceful a lot of retired people, a lot of senior citizens, and the department continues to do a lot of things that are not necessarily law enforcement function, but you've got to have the people to do that. When you're doing non-law enforcement activity, the law enforcement activity is suffering, is waiting for a deputy to get there because he's out chasing a running dog when animal control is not available, or helping animal control chase a running dog. But when you call and say, I just got home and my front door is kicked in and all my stuff is all over my living room and dining room floor, and I heard a noise inside, I think there's still somebody inside my house. And you're waiting for an hour and a half, 2.5 hours for a deputy to get there? Are you being served properly? You're absolutely not. Do you think that when you shout inside your open door into your house, hey, whoever's in my house, wait here for an hour and a half till the cops get here, what's going to happen? He's going to come out and he's going to attack you so that he can get away. Hopefully he'll go out a back window when you're at the front door and get away, but hopefully not. He's going to come out and confront you. Now this is just escalated, but you still don't have a cop here because there's not enough cops on the street to handle the volume of law enforcement work that needs to be done. Okay? Believe it or not, it's not out of the ordinary, and I've been saying this over and over again, it's not out of the ordinary. Monday through Friday, day shift, it's not out of the ordinary that there are 3 deputies on the street in this valley of 31,000+ people. Now, you have a disturbance at the convenience store next door, and you've got a deputy there handling that. And you have a car wreck over on Bella Vista and Leslie in the north side of town, okay? And you've got a deputy taking that accident report, and you've got another deputy blocking traffic because it's still in the middle of the road. And now you call and say, somebody's broke into my house. Who's handling that call? Yeah, nobody. Nobody is. There's nobody available. What can we do about that? We need to hire more deputies, okay? Right now we have 20-some positions that are budgeted but empty. There's not a butt sitting in that car seat. We do have an academy going through right now. I believe we're down to 14, 15 people in that academy, but they're going to be with their field training officers for the next 6 months. So they're really not, they're not a full-fledged deputy yet, okay? We need to recruit outside of our valley. We need to recruit actively. And I have plans where I'm going to recruit the colleges all throughout the nation, colleges that have a criminal justice system. Because people in the criminal justice system are probably planning on going into law enforcement in one way or another. So let's reach out to those colleges, universities. A lot of military people who are getting out of the military commonly go into law enforcement. Let's recruit military bases. I've got my next door neighbor's son wants to hire here, but he's not ready to get out yet. It's not time for him to be released out of the military. So that's some of my plans. The biggest thing is we need to keep the deputies here that we've got here in the first place. We hired them, we put them through an academy, we put them through field training. We've got a huge financial investment into these individuals. And now, when we treat them poorly, and we overwork them, and we call them in on their day off causing them to miss their kids' Little League game, and we hold them over on their 12-hour everyday shift, they're getting burned out, okay? And when we're treating them like children and we're not respecting their beliefs, their opinions, we're not even respecting their ability to make a decision. I mean, what did we put them through an academy and field training for if we're not going to allow them to make decisions? We're micromanaging everything. So what they're doing at times is they're going to other agencies. The current administration is going to tell you they're going to other agencies for more money, okay? That's not necessarily the truth. Nye County recently got a pretty darn good raise for their deputies, okay? So they're making more money. They're not below poverty level now, I think. However, they're going to other agencies so that they can be treated like human beings, which they're not being done, they're not receiving now. They're not getting the respect of, give me an idea. Administration coming to you and saying, give me an idea. You going to administration, hey, I've got an idea. This is something that we can change. This is another way that we can do something. If it's not the administration's idea, it's not a good idea, period. That's all there is to it. They do not listen to their people. They do not listen to their people when they say, we're not happy. We had a meeting with the union candidates, the sheriff's candidates, had a meeting with the union members about 6 weeks ago, and the members were very, very verbal. And the current administration has no idea.
I got a question.
You're fine, go ahead.
We're rural, 36,000 people.
Right.
Some rural communities have developed under the guidance of the sheriff's department, I don't want to say militia, or a volunteer individuals. Let's retire. I'm not taking through the bill. I am not going to be on the rifle range 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people in this community but would more than likely volunteer their time to help out law enforcement. About training maybe for the things they need to do, maybe administrative work, to set those deputies and the sheriff out on real calls. But I don't want to get shot at, but I'm sure I can send somebody.
I don't want to get shot at either.
I'm sure I'll send somebody out there to do it. Why don't, as a small community, why don't we kind of develop that? Because we were talking about this, that's why I'm asking the question. Why can't we develop it?
We do have that. We do have that. They're called auxiliary. They're the guys that you see driving around in Nye County Sheriff's Department vehicles wearing a blue uniform shirt. They're a incredibly valuable tool, because what they do is they go out and they serve evictions, they serve subpoenas, they do traffic control for us. Say, for instance, as I said earlier, I'm a motor cop. I go out on a wreck and we've got traffic blocked. They come out and they control the traffic force, divert the traffic around out of the area of the crash scene. So we do have that. When it comes to, and they also do administrative tasks. They work in the office. We have an auxiliary person who works in the evidence room right now. We have auxiliary people that work in the jail and help out with that. They work in the courts as bailiffs and help out with that, taking prisoners back and forth to court from the jail, okay? So yes, we do have that, and they're, like I said, incredibly valuable. But what is the backbone of a law enforcement agency? patrol officers, patrol deputies. And that's where we're falling short. We've forgotten about the backbone. Now, as I said, there's not a deputy to handle the call because he's all tied up. Because everybody who is working is all tied up. They're on other calls. But yet there's 5 lieutenants in the office doing whatever it is they're doing. Now, lieutenants, yes, they have. Administrative functions need to be done. Yes, they do. But can they not leave their administrative functions for a half hour, an hour, to go out there and rescue a citizen from a potential danger? They're still law enforcement. They're still sworn. They're given a car or a truck. Okay? They're given a vehicle to drive to the scene and handle law enforcement activity. So when I take office on January 1st, that's going to change. Those administrative positions that are working are going to be coming out on the street, and they're going to be handling law enforcement work. They're going to be handling deputies' work. Believe it or not, supervisors, sergeants, and lieutenants are being told by the administration, you will not go to a call because it's holding. Okay, I understand that to an extent. When a deputy needs his supervisor to run something by, to ask a question, to get procedural advice, something that a supervisor needs to deal with, that supervisor needs to be available to his deputy, okay? But there's no reason why a supervisor or a lieutenant or a captain cannot be handling the disturbance call next door at the convenience store. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
You said administration. What would that be?
I would consider lieutenant and above the administration. I'm not talking about clerical staff administration. I'm talking about, when I say administration, I'm talking sworn law enforcement administrators. And I'm referring to lieutenant above. So, I've lost track. My father worked for the city of Las Vegas. My mother worked for the Clark County School District. My brother went into the Army. My other brother worked for the city of Las Vegas. My sister worked at University Medical Center. I started working in law enforcement in 1987 in Las Vegas. I started working at the Clark County Detention Center as a corrections officer. I was 22 years old, and I decided after about a year and a half of that, it was a little too slow paced. So I decided I would go to the Patrol Academy. So I went to the Patrol Academy in 1989. And I have been a cop ever since. I've been in law enforcement now for coming up on 35 years. I worked for 26 years for the Metro Police Department in Las Vegas. I worked in several different detective assignments. I was part of the end of my career in Metro. I was with the Auto Theft Task Force, the Vibrant Auto Theft Task Force for 12 years. I worked in narcotics. I worked the problem solving unit. I worked the tourist crimes section, retail theft section. So when I retired in 2013 from Metro, we were living out here at the time. We moved out here in 2008. And after I retired, I decided after about 3 months that I was tired of doing honeydews all day. So I told my wife, quit giving me a honeydew list every day. I'm going back to work. And it worked, believe it or not. So I started working out here in 2014 as a deputy. I started doing detective work here. And I was a general assignment detective. Obviously, I can't work full-time because I'm collecting my retirement from Metro in Vegas. So I am paid right now, and I have been paid for about the last 5 years, part-time, 19 hours a week, okay? I started out at base pay, I think $17.75 an hour they started me at. But that's okay. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because this is my passion. Enforcement has been my passion for the last 34 plus years. And actually, well before that, I used to have people tell me when I was working at Lucky's grocery store, you should be a cop. Because of my attitude, my demeanor, my mindset. So, since working out here, I worked for about 3.5 years as a general assignment detective. And they asked me if I want to go to motor school. Motor school is 160 hours, 4 weeks, full-time, Metro taught, and you're on a motorcycle for that 160 hours. And trust me, that was the most physically demanding training that I have attended in my entire career. A lot of fun, because you get to ride a Harley Davidson all day, but it was a lot of work, because you're wrestling around that 900-pound Harley Davidson all day long. And ever since then, I've been working traffic enforcement actually.